graders, it's Mrs. Teagues. We've made it through another week of virtual learning. I can tell you that it's been quite the ride. It's definitely not the same. I'm missing you still and always. I miss making music with you and just seeing your faces and being able to have conversations with you. So I really hope that you're doing well. Before I get started, these are a couple quick announcements before we get into our video for the week. So far, I'm seeing really awesome work on your assignments. I'm really pumped about that. But I need you to make sure you're actually giving me some details with your answers, not just like one or two words. So for example, when we learned about folk music, I had some people just say, it was weird. That's not really giving me information about folk music. A tip for you is to always go back in the video, look at the slide, and just take stuff off the slide and put it in your own words. The key thing is you put it in your own words, okay? That's if you would type it just the way I have it typed, that's called plagiarism. Okay, so make sure you're trying to put it in your own words. Tell me things that you're learning. This is just kind of opening your eyes to music that you probably have already heard before, but now you kind of understand where it's coming from. Okay. The big thing I want to share with you that I'm really hoping I get some of you to do is totally optional is the middle school showcase. Normally we would have a night kind of like the elementary school fine arts night but at the middle school we call it the middle school showcase. And your classroom teachers and Mrs. Elson, would decorate the halls, put up all of your work, all of your artwork, and showcase your stuff. And then what I would do in the music room with Mr. Jewell is we'd have a couple people who would like to perform either solos or duets. He would have instrumentalists, obviously. So if you're in band, he would do that. But I would have people that wanted to sing. And we are still trying to brainstorm a cool way that we could do this digitally and virtually. And I'm hoping that some of you jump on board and try it, because the cool thing about this is you're not going to actually have to sing for an audience. So you can videotape yourself as many times as you'd like. Now, with that being said, I have to have some limits on it. So what I have for you is in our Google Classroom, in our classwork folder, you're going to see a folder called Middle School Showcase. And there's going to be a whole bunch of different songs that are there that I know are appropriate. Trust me, I know you guys really, really have a whole bunch of different songs that you love to sing, but I have to make sure that they are school appropriate and people can listen to them, and that we actually have the copies of the music for legal reasons, okay, copyright reasons. So long story short, you can pick a song from there if you want to. I will have the audio files in there too, so you can practice along. And then all you need to do is just send me your videos. You can do it either email, or I'll set it up as an assignment where you can send me videos there and I can give you feedback, kind of like what Mr. Jewell does for your band lessons. What I need you to know is this is totally optional. You do not have to do this. It's just something really fun, because I know there's a lot of you that really, really actually would love the opportunity to be able to perform. Okay, so think about it, email me with questions, and check it out, because there's some good stuff in there. All right. Last week, we talked about early colonial music. Ooh, it's being a little silly here. Give me just a second. Let me exit out of here. Forgive me. All right, and let me go back. All right. So we talked about folk music and what folk music was. I'm going to move myself. And we talked about the colonists in early America. And life wasn't always that simple for them. Okay. But after a while, they started to get established. They started figuring things out, and they started feeling like good. Okay. So, long story short, they were really, really still controlled by Great Britain or England. Okay. And the King of England, we kind of talked about this. He wasn't a very nice guy. He still wanted lots of control. And the colonists were getting really upset because he started doing lots of things to them that they didn't seem fair. For example, taxing them. He taxed them on all kinds of different things. And it was specifically called taxation without representation. What that means, fifth graders, is that they were getting taxed for things like food and clothing, and the list could go on, but they didn't have anyone in England representing them to fight for what they thought was really a fair tax amount. So they started getting really, really frustrated. And as they started getting more frustrated, the king started punishing them even more with more taxes. And kind of the last straw was when he put this tax that was really extreme on tea. Now, some of you are like, oh, what is tea? Tea is kind of like a coffee drink. Okay, you see many teachers, I'm drinking mine right now, drink their coffee in the morning. Your parents drink their coffee. Tea is another type of caffeinated hot beverage. A lot of times, if you're feeling sick, it's good. Well, tea at that time was like super, super important. They had actual time set aside in the day, excuse me, where they would drink tea. And they finally got upset because the king put this awful tax on it. And they said, enough, that's it. And a whole bunch of rebels went to the Boston Harbor, and they stood there and waited for the next shipment of tea to come in. When it did, they dumped it into the sea. And that was known as the Boston Tea Party. And this took place December 16th, 1773. And this is when we really start seeing tension and frustration to begin between the colonists and England. Okay. We finally start seeing battles beginning, meaning actual fights happening 1775. Okay. And then finally, a group of men got together on July 4th, 1776, and wrote our Declaration of Independence. Does that date seem familiar to you guys? I hope it does, because it's our Independence Day. It's the 4th of July. The 4th of July is when we wrote the Declaration of Independence to the king, saying, we are no longer going to follow your rules. We rule ourselves, right? Okay, so now our big question is, how does this affect music? Well, think about everything else. It's based upon what's happening at the time, right? So now we're starting to see lots of music show feelings of battles and the hardships, the struggles. And they were put into the songs along with the roars of victory. So whenever they won a battle, we'd hear about it. And these songs showed lots of patriotism. Patriotism is when you're loyal and you honor your country. Okay. We talk about that again a lot around Memorial Day, a lot around 4th of July, Veterans Day. Okay. It's very important. So I have a story for you, and it's one that I love sharing with you guys every single year, with 5th grade every single year, because we learn it in 1st grade. It's Yankee Doodle. Okay, I'm gonna make my screen go just to me so that way I can share with you my book. I'm going to do the best that I can to show you the pictures, but before we get started, the song goes like this. Yankee Doodle went to town riding on a pony, stuck a feather in his hat and called it macaroni. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy, mind the music and his step, and with the girls be handy. Okay, now some of you probably recognize the tune, but there's some things in here that you may not know. And in my book, on the page, this is a library book, by the way, it gives a whole bunch of facts. And I'm going to tell you right now, listen carefully. This is going to help you for your exit ticket for the week, your Mad Minute, okay? Some things about Yankee Doodle that you may not have known. The word Yankee was actually, or the song, excuse me, Yankee Doodle was not written by an American or a colonist. It was actually written by a member of the British Army, okay? The British troops sang it during the American Revolution, that's the war, to make fun of the colonists. Okay, so this actually wasn't a song that was like, woohoo, go America. It actually started out as, America, you stink. Okay, but the funny thing is, it ended up turning into a really awesome patriotic song. The British sang it as they marched to the Battle of Lexington, where they intended to teach all of the colonists a lesson, meaning they're going to show up and show them who's boss, right? However, the Americans won, and they ended up singing, who's the loser now, right? And they started singing Yankee Doodle back. Now, there's some words in this story that you might not have known. First of all, the word Yankee is a word that comes from the Native Americans. Long story short, they couldn't pronounce English correctly, and it like got morphed into this word Yankee. So British used it because they didn't think too highly of the Native Americans to make fun of the colonists. The word doodle, this one's kind of funny. It means stupid. So they were literally saying, you're an English stupid man, making fun of them. In those words, I'm going to try and zoom in again. Macaroni isn't like macaroni and cheese. My kids love macaroni and cheese, but it's not that kind of macaroni. Macaroni in that time actually was all of these feathers, all of the decorations in their hats. So if you've ever seen the movie Pirates of the Caribbean, one of my favorites, they wear these very decorated uniforms. All of the decorations on their uniforms are called macaroni. Okay. Hasty pudding is not good pudding. It's disgusting. It's actually, it says here there's a recipe. It's cornmeal, salt, and water that you boil together. Resources were very low, so they didn't have a lot. So they ate basically corn mush, and it got called hasty pudding because it was disgusting. Okay, so right there, go and rewind this as many times as you need to. That'll help you for your mad minute. All right, now the fun part, the story. I do my best here to show you the pictures. Yankee Doodle went to town riding on a pony, stuck a feather in his hat and called it macaroni. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy, mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. Okay, so that's the verse that was making fun of the colonists. Now we're going to see a change in the lyrics, meaning the words, and we're going to see a real story happening now. Father and I went down to camp along with Captain Gooden, and there we saw the men and boys as thick as hasty pudding. That means there's a lot of those tents. And there we saw 1,000 men, as rich as Squire David, giving orders to his men. I guess there were 1,000,000. And there I saw a little keg, its head all made of leather. They knocked on it with little sticks and called the folks together. And there was Captain Washington, George Washington, upon a slapping stallion, giving orders to his men. I guess there were 1,000,000. And the ribbons on his hat, it looked so very fine, because he was a captain, he had some decorations. I wanted Pescally to give to my Jemima. Jemima was his sweetheart. And there we saw a swapping gun, as large as a log of maple, giving orders upon a mighty little cart, a load for father's cattle. Okay, so they would use anything that they could as resources. And every time they fired it off, it took a horn of powder and made a noise like father's gun, only a nation louder. Cannons are really loud. Their troopers too would gallop up and fire right in our faces. It scared me almost half to death to see them run such races. So you can see here, they were in lines. That was a very organized battle. It wasn't like when you're playing your Xbox or PS, whatever it is now. Long story short, they marched in lines and then they kneel down and say, fire. And then the next line would come forward. It was not a very fun way to fight. Okay, not that any way to fight is fun. It scared me, so I hooked it off, nor stopped as I remember, nor turned about till I got home, locked it up in mother's chamber. So you can see here,